Architecture CodeX. If you want to see more, like, comment, share, and most importantly, subscribe.
Long before I thought of being an architect, a building imprinted itself inside of my brain, and I told myself that someday I would go visit it. That tower spoke about an adventurous future full of new and different things. It told me that one day life would be awesomely better. That structure is the Seattle Space Needle. For a kid coming to consciousness during NASA's Gemini program, it portended that things to come were here, and we did not have to wait for them. While the Space Needle was more simple than building, it reinforced a kind of construction that looked towards the future. It rejected the ornate traditional forms of architecture, but it also rejected the rectilinear sterility of Bauhaus modernism. Like the Empire State Plaza, Architecture Codex Video number 10, or the TWA building, Architecture Codex Video number 1, these buildings could easily have been sets on Star Trek. That is, if they could afford to shoot on location further than the Vasquez Rocks in northern LA County. And they say that the Jetsons changed their opening credits and other scenes after they were inspired by the Seattle Space Needle. Like many young people in the era, I was preoccupied with outer space because of NASA launching all those rockets, Star Trek, and buildings like the Space Needle. Heck, the word space was right in the name. And I wanted to be an astronaut. That is, until I found out from I Dreamer Jeannie that astronauts needed perfect vision, and I was already wearing glasses in the 4th grade. So my interest shifted more to aerospace engineering. And it wasn't until right before college that I considered architecture. I went to Notre Dame because they had both an architecture and an aerospace program, but when I got there, they told me I had to choose. I could not do both. Well, I don't regret my choice, but sometimes I feel sad that I turned my back on all that math, science, and engineering aptitude. So even if I could not go into space, though, here was something that combined both my interests, space and architecture, at least symbolically. I just didn't realize how long it would take for me to get there.
Everybody's planning to see Seattle's spectacular $100 million World's Fair.
So pack up your troubles and forget your cares. Pack up your family and head for the fair in Seattle.
Welcome to the future and all the wonders of the 21st century in the greatest preview the world has ever seen.
Take away ahead, look at tomorrow, just as if you were there.
Rocket ride to Mars in the breathtaking U.S. Science Pavilion. See the fabulous city of tomorrow in the gigantic, wall-less, pillarless Coliseum. Have fun with the happy-go-lucky crowds.
Pack up your troubles.
For 6 wonderful months.
Pack up your family and head for the fair.
It's the big thrilling adventure of a lifetime. Opening April 21st to October 21st in Seattle.
Built for the 1962 World's Fair with the theme, The Age of Space, it represented Seattle's future tied intrinsically with Boeing, the aerospace behemoth which put Seattle on the map industrially. The Space Needle remains the centerpiece of a park and cultural center that features a science museum, a sports arena, a museum of pop culture, an opera house, a Chihuly museum, and a monorail. But like the prediction that the monorail would become the dominant form of transportation, that future, that age of space, never happened. The Needle itself was the concept of Edward Carlson, the chief organizer of the World's Fair, who sketched its form on a napkin. The ultimate form came from 2 architects, Jack Graham, responsible for the saucer and its rotating restaurant, and Victor Steinbrueck, responsible for the slender waist tower supports. It was constructed in under 8 months, starting with a solid concrete base 30 feet deep and 120 feet in diameter, equaling the weight of the tower itself. meaning the center of gravity of this Space Needle is just 5 feet above the ground. The steel legs are anchored to the concrete base with 74 bolts 32 feet long. It is so stable that it could withstand winds of up to 200 miles per hour, double the code requirement. And during the 2001 Nisqually earthquake, all that happened was the water sloshed out of the toilets. The outer ring of the rotating restaurant, 14 feet deep, was so well balanced that it was driven by just a 1.5 horsepower motor. At only 605 feet tall, it was once the tallest structure west of the Mississippi, replacing the 42-story, 462-foot tall Smith Tower, built in 1914 in downtown Seattle, which at the time had been the tallest building west of the Mississippi as well. Note that the list of tallest structures will distinguish between buildings and towers. The Space Needle is now the 9th tallest structure in Seattle, but its height wasn't its core attraction. It was its gravity-defying, flying saucer-style top on thin legs, like the CN Tower in Toronto, Architecture Codex video number 38, and the New York World's Fair 1964 towers. Their grace are enhanced because they stand on a stem and not an office building right out of the ground. Experiencing the Space Needle as an adult in 2023 was still pretty exciting, and I felt that youthful thrill return to me. But I realize it's 2023 and I still do not have a personal jetpack. My house is not a saucer 400 feet in the air, and I can't take a shuttle to the moon colony. And man has not yet set foot on Mars or orbited Jupiter. If that seems disappointing, at least we haven't had World War III, a eugenics war. Our food supply is still pretty tasty, and not people, although I sometimes wonder about Beyond Beef. And we haven't blown up the world in a nuclear holocaust and handed control of our planet over to the apes. So far. Privately owned, the Space Needle was renovated extensively in 2018. Like other tall monuments, they upped their long line experience with interesting displays that tell the history of the tower. See my review of New York City skyscraper observation decks in Architecture Codex video number 60. The 43-second elevator ride still brings you outside before you get inside at the top saucer. The restaurant was removed, but the outer 14 feet of that ring on that level still rotates, although twice as fast, at 30 minutes for each revolution. With new floor-to-ceiling windows and glass floor panels added to the rotating ring, it is an exciting thrill ride experience. And so that rotating ring is now called the Loop Lounge. That's loop with an E at the end. And there's a place for adult libations. I suppose one way to tell if you've had too much to drink is if the room stops spinning. I'm Michael Molinelli, and this is Architecture Codex.